Mansour walked past the sign of a retro cafe 20th century, which neon lights were turned off a long time ago. He delayed for a second, looking into an ancient advertising poster with a funny slogan, and headed further down the street to the center of the city. Flymobiles passed by high above his head, almost silently. It has been a long time since people had a need to walk, except on a fitness club track. Yet, he loved such lonely novelty walks. An unexpected presence violated the usual landscape of a deserted street. It was so sudden that Mansour didn't understand what happened. There was something wrong with the surrounding landscape and movement ahead. Not a hologram or a flymobile, but a person. Bewildered, Mansour stopped and could not gather his thoughts for a few seconds. In these few moments, he had to reconfigure his perception. Only then has he allowed himself to believe that another person could walk through the empty streets of the lower level. Only then the object ahead has acquired a clear outline. A woman in a long, luxurious coat and high-heeled boots of an ancient style, made on order. Deep down inside, Mansour was food fetishist. While in virtual reality, he often ordered himself such female images. Was it a hallucination? No, she had a bouquet of yellow flowers in her hands. He wouldn't have imagined it even in a nightmare. The stranger turned to the cross street. Her gait was firm. When she noticed Mansour, she didn't look disturbed, rather annoyed, struck not so much by her beauty, but by the extraordinary loneliness in her eyes. Mansour followed her as if a piece of metal after a strong magnet. For a couple of minutes, they walked silently. Finally, a stranger asked loudly and clearly, "Do you like these flowers?" Mansour didn't expect such a question, and to his surprise, answered honestly, "No, I don't like it. I love red roses." "Oh, that's splendid." Abruptly, the woman cast the flowers around the corner of the neighboring building. Cyber cleaners cheered behind it. Having acquired the ability to think logically again, Mansour asked, "Are you a member of the Reconstruction Club?" "Which club?" the stranger asked. Then she pondered, turned to Mansour and said, "Who cares anyhow?" She took Mansour by the hand and looked into his eyes. "Let's walk. In our time, people have completely forgotten what it feels like." "Sure thing," Mansour happily agreed. "We are near a pond. So you don't know anything about the Reconstruction Club?" "We dwell in the past. At least a couple of weeks in a year, we try to live like the people who lived in the 20th century, a bygone era that was full of romance. Imagine, there were no flymobiles and artificial intelligence. See, there is almost no this ubiquitous CCTV on the lower level. Only 50 years have passed, and maintenance robots dismantled many old cameras because of inadequacy. Only 2 or 3 chambers remained throughout the lower level, quite enough to maintain order, while in alleys, just like in the Stone Age, there is no supervision. But it doesn't look like you are interested." "Oh no, go on," the woman exclaimed. "Talk, just talk. Doesn't matter about what. Right now I feel like listening to you." "Here is Indigo level." The pleased Mansour pointed to the left. "Sorry, I still didn't introduce myself. Mansour Bulgakov." "Margaret Kennedy," she responded grumpily, and, rolling up the sleeve, showed him a bracelet on her wrist. White and gold, as you can see. "Wow, respect." Mansour stumbled, then, restoring balance, gave Margaret a short bow. Screw it." The woman threw a bracelet off her hand into the alley between the houses. Mansour rushed after the bracelet and managed to pick it up ahead of a cyber cleaner. He just couldn't let such a valuable thing go to waste. Certainly, at the moment, Margaret was angry, but by morning, she'd come to her senses and remember that some Joe Blow dared not to pick up her identifier. God damn it, why is it so hard with women? Although, how would he know what works with them? I'm certainly very sorry, but let me ask you. He had to switch the topic, showing her the direction. Here, to the right, to the pond. Mansour mumbled, feeling that in her eyes he must have looked like a moron. However, she didn't make any fuss, followed his lead, and they turned into the side street. It seemed as though Margaret actually wanted to see the pond. Let me ask you, are you a scientist? Rather, how did you manage to get a white and gold bracelet? Mansour finished his question. I cheated. Margaret looked annoyed. Remember, 7 years ago, there was an experiment awarding extreme athletes, so I got into the thing. I've always been interested in parachute sport and eventually acquired the white and gold level. I never even thought about the result. I was crazy about flying itself. Jump off the rock into the abyss and for a few moments lose yourself. If I knew that people would be asking me every day because of that bracelet, "Oh, so you are a scientist," I wouldn't have jumped at all. I'd be content to have a level like yours. Wow, that's awesome. Mansour stretched the first word, pondering. You are all right. Your white and gold bracelet is well deserved. Never in my life I've dared to parachute or dive. My thing is quests and creative thinking. Margaret stopped and looked up. Somehow here I feel surprising harmony, she said. Sure thing, Mansour nodded. These ponds are a historical monument, and above them a piece of real sky is kept. Being in this alley feels magic. I've always liked it. Here, in this building. Mansour pointed to the wall of the building to the left of them. I think the exact holographic replica of the ponds is on the 107th level, the way they were in the 20th century. It has nothing to do with what they are right now. But you know, I like a real pond for some reason. They stood for a minute, trying to see a narrow strip of sky between the walls of two colossal buildings, going hundreds of floors up. I want to see the ponds, Margaret said. Let's go. Mansour carefully took her hand and led her further down the side street. You know, I have a somewhat unusual hobby. Perhaps, if I show my work to the Central Artificial Intelligence Bureau, I might also get the white and gold bracelet. Or maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to show it to anyone. But I feel like I want to tell you about it. This is your secret and you want to entrust it to me? Margaret was surprised. Don't do it. Although, wait. Go ahead, tell me. Then I might have the reason today not to inject myself with a lethal dose of poison. Poison? Mansour even jumped in surprise. Why would you want to poison yourself? We live in a perfect world, and you have a white and gold bracelet. That's like the ultimate. Most people could only dream about it. In fact, I can't even imagine what else one can dream about. That's it exactly. Nothing to dream about. Margaret stopped and looked closely into his eyes. They were thunderous. Can't even imagine how disgusting it is when there is nothing more to strive for. Every day looks like yesterday, and tomorrow will be the same as today. I can no longer parachute after a fracture, and I have this white and gold level for life as injury compensation. So, I drive around different cities and streets like this one, all over the world. And this city was the last one on my list. Everywhere, everything is the same. Here, at least, there is you and your secret. So, what is it? I wrote a book, Mansour shrugged. A book? Is that it? Margaret resented. With the help of program editors, any fool can do that. No, I wrote it without programs. Mansour hastily explained. And in general, without any gadgets. How so? Margaret asked quizzically. We've already came to the pond, Mansour said. Let's sit down. Here are some benches, and we can even see the sky from here. By the way, at this very crossing, once upon a time, there was a cafe named after you, Margaret. This wreck? With disdain, Margaret looked at the ruins of a two-story building preserved incredibly in the center of a vast metropolis. In photos taken in the beginning of the 21st century, it looks much more pleasing, Mansour pleaded. However, it doesn't matter. Let me tell you about the book. Once I learned that my my distant ancestor was a writer. So this little puddle is all that is left from the ancient patriarchal ponds. It is a historical monument now, precisely thanks to the most popular of his books. So I became interested in plunging into that era and joined the Reconstruction Club. AI even likes to mess with our club because we create requests to produce unique objects. Imagine, it took AI several days to bring to life my proposal. Wow, said Margaret, I can't even imagine what you might have wanted. A ball pen and a stack of white paper, Mansour laughed. The AI even hung when it accepted a request to make such an irrational thing as a ball pen, and eventually offered me a rapidograph. According to reviews from the 20th century, the rapidograph is more pleasant to use, and now it turned out to be easier to produce. Margaret's happy laughter spread in the void over the pond's dark water. So you hacked the system? She couldn't stop laughing. Amazing. I was lucky to meet a man who managed to hack the AI system. Well, it's not that I'm proud of it. Mansour said in confusion and tried to change the subject. If you believe the photos, once upon a time, there were trees here. They've been gone for a long time, but you could still see the sky from here. Generally, all the ponds were different in the past. For sure, you saw them in holograms. People come here to distance themselves from the fuss, talk on a bench under the shadow of branches, and feed ducks. Here it was very romantic. Mansour and Margaret stood near the concrete fence, looking at the dark body of water. Now it's romantic here as well, Margaret said, raising her eyes. 2 stars were glowing high at the top of the night sky. Without a doubt, they were real stars, rather than glitches of holograms. They sparkled in the middle of a small polygon of sky squeezed between skyscrapers that topped the pole of empty space above an ancient pond. I look into this bottomless sky, and even the air seems sweet. Margaret spoke quietly. Tell me about your book. It wasn't easy to learn how to write letters on paper, Mansour sighed. It is more difficult than any quest, and if I show AI this ability, it will immediately raise my level. But I didn't learn to write, so I could eat more delicious food and have a higher access level to entertainment. Rather, I was just wondering, would I be able to succeed? So, did it work out? Margaret asked. Yes, Mansour nodded. I wrote a novel about a man living in the 20th century. He dreams of a future in which robots will free people of hard work. At the same time, he tries to figure out what people will do so they will not degrade from boredom. Gradually, step by step, he invents and logically justifies what our civilization has come to, the gray level of today's well-being everyone has. And those for whom it's not enough to have a bed in a small room and minimum nutrients from protein bars engage in quests and receive rewards. Scientists who have been able to invent something that AI has not thought of, or those who have set interesting tasks for it, receive the gold level. If you want to eat delicious food, then advance and develop yourself. Yet, writing about it, I just stated the obvious. The novel's essence is not in that. For me, the essence is in the everyday scenes, in how my characters travel to work using the transport of that era, in how they walk near ponds, real, not holographic, in how they are taking pictures of scared birds ready to fly away at any moment, and in how many people do not believe that the golden age will one day come. Margaret approached her face to Mansour's and looked intently into his eyes. Mansour realized that he had to do something immediately, now, but what? Not being able to come up with anything better, he hugged her firmly and kissed her on the lips. "It was beautiful," Margaret said quietly, a moment after they interrupted the kiss to take a breath. "Can I ask you something? Do you have a sex robot?" Although, what a silly question. Of course you do. I'm ashamed to admit that I turned off my sex robot a year ago, Mansour said. Margaret laughed out loud once more. "Well, it is simply because Mansour tried to find the words to clarify that he has no problem with potency. But Margaret laughingly exclaimed, "I turned off my robot 2 years ago and thought I was the only one on the entire planet who was that crazy." Mansour hugged and kissed her again. "Let's go," he said. "I don't have a white and gold level, but my bed is soft and white." "No," Margaret said playfully. "No bed." "Didn't you say there was no CCTV on the lower level?" "We go to the alley." And having grabbed him by the coat collar with the athlete's determination, as if psyched for a victory, Margaret dragged the last and only writer of the earth into the darkness.